And get started. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to share with you some of our findings. On the phone in the webinar today, you've got myself, Jason Tabling. I'm our Executive Vice President of Product Marketing at BrandMuscle. I'm responsible for product management and product marketing across all of our solutions at the organization. And we're generously joined today by Patrick Romy.
Hey everyone, Patrick Romy here. I'm a client solutions manager at Facebook. And over the past 5 years, I've been helping brands and local businesses within the insurance industry collaborate on the Facebook family of apps and services to drive value for their business. Prior to joining Facebook, I worked at a handful of companies specializing in social media advertising. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, Patrick. Thank you. And I guess as your introduction, I should say as well, I started my career as a licensed property and casualty insurance agent. So I have started my career there and still spend a lot of time in the insurance industry. So if anyone needs a property and casualty quote at the end of the call, feel free to contact me. So let's go ahead and get started today. Our objectives are just to make sure that you can explain and understand how buyers are shopping for insurance today. Share with you our findings from the state and local marketing insurance industry, and help you understand some of the unique challenges that are facing the market today. We want you to learn the path that consumers are taking to purchase their insurance, the very important role that insurance agents have in that buying process, and what's important from their perspective to help them be successful, and how we can leverage our research from both what Facebook has pulled together as well as BrandMuscle to advance your own local marketing maturity. We're going to start today with Patrick walking through some of the consumer's path to purchase for insurance.
Great, thanks, Jason. So Facebook earlier this year published a report that details findings from 2 studies that we commissioned in partnership with both Accenture and Comscore. And we set out to understand both what motivated purchase decisions and the role that different channels, online and offline, are playing in the shopper journey by surveying over 1,000 US adults that had recently purchased insurance. For today's webinar, we'll focus on our findings on auto insurance shoppers. And when we looked at the shopper journey, there's 4 distinct stages. The journey begins casually in the reactive observance or discovery stage. This is where people are starting to learn about insurance offerings and different brands. And this is where marketing can influence which brands are considered. Then life happens. Key life events move people closer to buying. And then they move into, pardon me. And then they move into active shopping, where they're evaluating and their options with an increased intent to purchase. Marketing at this stage can also move brands up and down on a buyer's preferred list. And then finally, the purchase stage. So zeroing in first on the purchase stage, I think, is a snapshot of auto insurance today. It's bought both online and offline, with 55% of buyers purchasing offline led through the agency channel, and 42% of purchasers through online channels, both desktop and mobile devices.
This part, Patrick, I think is really interesting for us. We saw some Forrester research this year that said 77% of consumers are buying from property and casualty agents. This data says 55%. It's still, whatever data you're looking at, over half. And I think it's really easy for us, as you know, we work in digital. Facebook is all digital, to get caught up in advancing the insurance market and industry in digital, which I think is a massive opportunity. But we have to be mindful that this channel, from a consumer perspective for insurance, is still massively important, regardless of the stats you're looking at.
100%. So what we also learned from this study is that the shopper journey can be a short one. And while auto insurance is frequently bought in tandem with the higher consideration purchase of a car, the majority of people who are buying auto insurance are doing so in less than a week. And in fact, 30% are making that decision in less than a day. So I think in marketing, we talk so much about, right person, right message, right time. And I think these data points really underscore the importance of tools and systems that are required to successfully identify when someone's actively shopping for insurance at any moment in time. And as we'll touch on soon, this is a finite audience, and they may be only considering a handful of options when they're in this kind of active shopper stage.
Yeah, we'll see later where there's a lot of agents told us the different tactics that they're using to help be found at the right place, and that's from organic, social, paid media tactics, location data management, et cetera. But the point Patrick's making here, I think, is really important. You got to be there to be found when those consumers are looking for your channel.
Right, and a perfect segue to the other stages that this research really highlighted, and this is to understand how people are using different channels, both online and offline, which we've broken out into traditional and in-person, throughout the discovery and evaluation phases. So as we zoom out on these phases, we see that buyers aren't really relying on a single channel throughout their shopper journey. In fact, the path to purchase is very much an omni-channel journey. What you're seeing on the left are responses from survey respondents for all channels that they're using in this journey, and it's really clear to see that there's multiple channels that are playing a significant role. Led by online, both in-person conversations, which you can think of as family and friends, certainly the agency channel we see playing a prominent role, as well as more traditional channels like television. And then as you move your eyes over to the right, the bar graphs are showing the responses from participants when we asked them what was the most important channel that played a role in discovery and evaluation phase. And I think the key takeaway here as you look from discovery to evaluation is how much more important both in-person conversations and agents as well as online play in this evaluation phase where people are more actively shopping. Let's see, trying to advance here, apologies.
It looks like it's starting to come up here.
Oh, all right, maybe I'm freezing a little bit.
What do you see?
Well, I can speak to it even if I'm looking at the wrong
Hang
graph.
on, but yeah, hang on, friend. Here, let's get you. Let's see what we can't see here. Catching up?
Not yet.
Okay, hang on. Let's try this.
Perfect.
Okay. There we go. Sorry, buddy.
All right. No worries. So one of the other key things that we wanted to learn from these studies with Accenture and ComScore is just to understand the trends between different age groups. And we looked at 18 to 34-year-olds and the channels that they're using in both discovery and evaluation and purchase stages, and compared those to those that are 35 and older. And so I think it's clear when you're looking at this graphic, which is specific to the discovery stage, that both generations are reporting similar levels or similar sources of discovery across computers, in-person conversations, agents, television, and all those channels are playing significant roles. However, the key insight here is that 18 to 34-year-olds are 5 times more likely to cite mobile as a source of discovery. So that presents kind of a huge opportunity when you're thinking about the next wave of customers and how to get your agency, your brand in front of them. As we, oh, sorry, went ahead one. All right. And then it's a similar story with that kind of next stage that we talked about, so the evaluation stage. And again, we see that agents and in-person conversations are the leading sources in this critical evaluation phase, and that's across demographics. Similarly, we see similar degrees across computers and televisions, but again, the key takeaway is just how important the mobile device is playing in the evaluation stage for 18 to 34-year-olds, where it's less of an important tactic or channel for those that are 35 and up.
Yeah, that really jumped out, Patrick. I think I asked you a couple times to check your data source on that because it was such a stark difference between channel types between these two age demographics. And I think as Facebook themselves is deriving for mobile first, we're really trying to talk to our agents about how they can leverage the power of mobile from a location standpoint and all the targeting capabilities and contextual capabilities that can come along with that as consumers are shopping.
So in addition to being heavy mobile users, and we can call 18 to 34-year-olds as millennials here, what we learned from these studies is that millennials are actually presenting more opportunities for marketers. So one thing we learned is while most people are considering 1 to at most 3 brands, millennials are shopping with a more open mind, which you see in the top infographic here. And they're more likely to consider more brands than people that are 35 and up. What's more is they're also tending to spend more time researching for these options. So again, knowing how this is still a pretty short active shopper journey, millennials are tending to spend more time evaluating their options before making a purchase decision. And again, as marketers presenting more opportunities to influence them. All right. So where does social media and apps like Facebook and Instagram fit into this equation? Facebook's family of apps and services accounts for 1 of every 5 minutes of time spent on mobile. So it shouldn't and hopefully doesn't come as a surprise that social media presents an enormous opportunity to reach and influence prospective customers. What we found from these studies is that on average 18 minutes are spent on social media while people are doing research for auto insurance. 25% of respondents had at least 1 social interaction while shopping for auto insurance, and 82% reported that they visited Facebook at least once a week. And we also learned that Facebook ads are effective from this research. So 1 in 10 buyers reported that they remembered seeing ads on Facebook before purchasing, but respondents also agree that they're discovering and considering more insurance companies as a result of seeing ads on Facebook. So, what are millennials looking for when evaluating insurance options? While ease and convenience are, I think, super important for every generation, it's definitely important for young people. Being easy and convenient is making the process essentially quick, simple, and not overwhelming. And to get an idea of what ease and convenience looks like in insurance, one example that we pulled out from the research is automated assistance. And while there's definitely no replacing the human interaction in a time of need, nearly 1 in 3 respondents said they didn't mind automated assistance, citing the ability to interact at any time as the reason for their preference there. And I think for agents, this doesn't have to be an either or scenario, right? An automated assistant can help scale business by handling simple, frequently asked questions and essentially enabling people to engage with an agency at any time, anywhere.
This slide, Patrick, I think ties a lot to what we're thinking about for BrandMuscle overall. If you're thinking about on the consumer side, how willing folks are to engage with automated assistance, we also feel like on the agent side, when they think about engaging with a brand management solution or a software platform like BrandMuscle to manage their local marketing campaigns, we also feel like there's a transactional ability that makes it easier for agents who are very crunched for time to be able to come to a site like BrandMuscle and get the recommendation of what they should be doing. Lots of folks will show up and say, I don't know what to do. Now I've got to learn another software platform. I've got to learn why I'm making the choices, or I got to think about the choices I'm making. What are the best choices? So as a company also, I think this slide really resonated with us at BrandMuscle because we feel like we can also help agents in this with automated artificial intelligence and recommendation engines in the same way that Patrick is suggesting consumers are okay and are looking for help when they're doing their insurance shopping.
So before I hand it over to Jason, there's just a few key takeaways from our research that I encourage anyone to check out on our Facebook IQ site that we'll be sharing a link to at the end of the webinar here. But I think for us, a few things stand out. What's clear here is the path to purchase is omni-channel. Both offline and online are playing prominent roles, moving buyers from discovery to evaluation to purchase. When we're looking at the next wave of policyholders, cross-device, particularly mobile, is prevalent throughout the purchase journey. And so this is for marketers creating a new set of challenges to be able to tie the impact of advertising to business outcomes. And reason being is that traditional measurement tools have fragmented or incomplete views of the customer journey across devices, particularly when it comes to mobile and ads that are placed in mobile apps like Facebook, like LinkedIn, like Twitter. And I think the shopper journey today really requires us to rethink how ad effectiveness is measured and to account for impressions that are made prior to purchase, and ultimately to help businesses make smarter decisions that's going to generate leads and grow an agent's book of business. So with that, excited to hand it back over to Jason to walk us through some of the results from the state of local marketing and insurance.
Yeah, thanks for covering that stuff, Patrick. I think you did a great job, and it's great to see research like this going on to help us understand marketing for the insurance and other verticals through the work that Facebook and others are doing. And it's still just crazy what a place of market share Facebook and their corresponding app family has on the marketplace overall. So thanks for going through that.
Of course.
For us at BrandMuscle, we do every year a state of local marketing report. This is the 5th year we've been doing it. And a couple things are different this year that we're excited about. One is this webinar. So for the first time, we've amassed enough data where we feel comfortable breaking out some of our findings for the state of local marketing report overall out at a vertical level. And insurance is our first chance to do that. So we're very excited to kind of break down our findings and show how local insurance agents and their channel partners are thinking about marketing compared to the rest of the industry. So we'll walk through some of those differences and deltas. The other key thing that we did for the report overall is we created a local marketing maturity matrix. And this was our way to score our survey respondents and show where they were in their maturity evolution. Were they immature? Were they sophisticated? Were they optimizing their programs? Where are they in that path? And we'll cover that data in a little bit. And you can see on the right here, these are the different components that make up that maturity matrix score. Things that are, from support, how are the channel partners and brands providing education and resources to them? Administration about tools, processes, and policies for maybe co-op submission. How easy or difficult is it? Corporate commitment, how well they perceived corporate to be committed to their success at the agent channel. So these are our core competencies as we think about that maturity matrix. But these are really two very exciting evolutions. We want to measure ourselves and our clients' business against their ability to be more mature year over year. So let's start by just sharing the maturity scores for the insurance industry from versus other industries. So as you can see on the left, we've got disengaged all the way up to optimizing. And that's literally folks who don't really care or pay much attention to the program at all the way to those who are, engaged at every turn and probably emailing your CEO and you daily for why can't I do this and how can I do this to optimize my program and really pushing the boundaries of what everyone is really ready and able to do. And so the takeaway from here is really two things. One, no matter what industry you're in, these local channel partners and agents are still very immature. So you're seeing about 80% of folks that are still in the bottom two areas of our maturity matrix. And that's a little bit higher for other verticals, but still a majority of folks fall into those bottom two buckets. As a pro for insurance, you are seeing 21% of agents in the equipped or higher. So those are 21% of those are equipped or higher versus 10% of other industries. So double the amount of respondents that we saw that scored well on their maturity matrix, which I think as we go through this, you'll see that to be very interesting in some of the ways where they feel they're more supported than other industries or how they're achieving that maturity. Well, we thought those two items were really interesting. Still a ton of opportunity in the space overall, even though the fact they're 2 times more mature than the rest of the industry. The other big thing we thought as a starting point was the amount of spend. So we asked people, how much of your own money are you spending towards marketing? And we created these kind of buckets, right, from negligible all the way to robust. What we're seeing is 68% of the insurance agent respondents are spending greater than 1% of their own dollars on marketing funds, which is significantly higher than other industries. So these folks are willing to spend their own dollars to see success, and we'll show you in some of the ways that they're willing to do that later on. But it's really one of the more stark differences as we look across all the industries, how much more willing insurance agents are to spend than others. All right, the next one here is just the perceived corporate commitment. Now, this one is also really interesting. You can see that they feel there's a little bit less commitment than other industries. This is a constant battle as you think about the channels that insurance agencies and insurance companies are dealing with. There's a ton of direct-to-consumer advertising in the marketplace, direct-to-consumer companies who are focused on direct-to-consumer only, startups and legacy brands alike. And agents are always feeling, when you talk to them in the field, and I'm sure you guys on the phone listening now feel this, they want to know what's being done for them and know that corporate is committed to their success. And so they still feel that. You can see 30% versus 31% feel that they are fully committed and can believe it can be a growth engine. So that's roughly aligned to what we see. And then it starts to slip from there, right? There are more folks who are feeling like there is kind of just a checkbox commitment, right? They have to do it because we exist in the field. And so there is still that frustration related to channel conflict that I think they're feeling, which I'm certain everyone on today and that will listen to this in the future can experience and have felt. All right, the next thing that we wanted to share is we asked insurance agents what their top priorities for the year were. What are the things that they were really focused on from a marketing standpoint in the new year? And it was really a standout, right? They want social media advertising. They want to get engaged with social, websites and landing pages, and still direct mail and flyers, which I think is a very core to success legacy program within insurance, how you target consumers with direct mail. So they're still very comfortable in that space. We think those points are very interesting. We also think it's really interesting down at the bottom here, how much further they've pulled back from other industries. So TV and radio, print, point of sale, promo signage are a third or half of what they are in other verticals. So insurance agents whether you're seeing their willingness to opt in to some of the programs you have or are being very forward focusing, are interested in these channels. And I think the fact that, what Patrick just talked us through in his research is a big part of this. I think the fact that Patrick, someone like, if you want to talk about the evolution of even your team, the fact the job that Patrick has in his title and his org exists for insurance, I think validates that. If you want to comment on that quickly, Patrick.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's, based off of data that we see on our own platform, and then certainly data points that you see here in front of you today is a, real reason why Facebook is continuing to invest in, communities like the insurance agent community with roles like mine, where I'm focused entirely on meeting the needs for the agent market, but also as we think about the product teams that exist here at Facebook and how they're starting to think more specifically about, what are the types of tools that will really benefit insurance agents and better help connect agents with consumers online.
Yeah, and generally speaking, I think it's good to see that regardless of the industry, you're still seeing digital tactics be key focus areas and priorities. So the local channel is coming around to the importance that digital has on their ability to grow their business, which I think is good for all of us as we fight this struggle and continue to educate about the impact that digital can have. Okay, the next thing we wanted to share is we asked insurance agents to rank for us the perceived effectiveness of different media tactics and how often they're using different tactics. So that bottom left corner is low usage and perceived to be not very effective. And you can see in there, it's pretty much TV, radio, newspaper, flyers, a majority of traditional channels. Moving up a graph for host-owned events, paid search and SEO, these are things that are still low usage, not necessarily fully activated across the agent base, but perceived to be very effective. In the bottom right, these are higher usage things, but low effectiveness, point of sale, sponsorships. And then in the top right, I think this is really interesting to me. It's not necessarily what's in that box that's the most important. It's the fact that not many things are in that box. Mm-hmm. So this, I think, struggles or starts to articulate the point around, never being satisfied. How do I track and measure and learn what I'm doing, right? They're not necessarily sure what they're doing, that they do all the time because they know it works. And so there's more digital tactics up there than not, and websites and email that are perceived to be performing well. But the fact that there aren't many things in that top right quadrant means agents are still unsure what they should be doing all the time. That should be the hammer in their toolbox that they should bring to them to every job site because they know it's going to be successful. And so I think that's a big challenge for us in this industry to help them feel like what they're doing in marketing is effective and is driving ROI or leads for their program.
Right, and just to add in, I think this ties in with what we see on the consumer side is, right, agents are using a lot of different tactics because we know that there's a lot of different places and channels to be able to reach consumers, but they're unsure about effectiveness. And I think this speaks to the earlier points about traditional measurement tools, really not being fit for kind of this omni-channel world that we all live in today. So again, sort of that need to rethink, how do we measure effectiveness the best that we can.
Right. That measurement piece continues to be a challenge. So we wanted to dive into just one of the areas, and if you download the full report, there are a lot more detail about different channels that we excluded from today's report. So what we're showing you now for paid search is something, if you download the full report, you can see for display, online listings, location data management, websites, etc. So we encourage you to take a look at that report if you haven't already. But we wanted to pull out paid search just as an example because it showed up in the previous slide as something that was highly effective but not used that frequently. And here you can see that versus other industries, showing something that's included but not inadequately supported only 20% of the time versus other industries at 32% of the time, and even 39% of people saying it's not included versus 31 in other areas. So there is, a feeling that paid search is effective for insurance agents, but not necessarily included as often as other industries. And I think it's, a very simple reason why we see that in the data. It's purely the cost to participate in paid search. It's generally cost prohibitive for insurance agents to play in non-branded keywords. So this is from another study that shows the cost per keywords, and you can see insurance on average is $54 a click. So in our world, when we do agent media programs, we're anywhere between $250 a month and $1,500 a month. So if guy has $500, he can get 10 clicks for paid search. So he's got to hope that those are highly effective. And so I think that's why we see Facebook being our #1 channel of paid media for insurance agents, is because the reach is there, as Patrick's walked us through. It's much more cost effective than search, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's more effective. So when we do search for agents today, there's a lot of branded terms, there's a lot of localized terms, and there's a lot of insurance agent terms that for brands that are looking for that direct consumer online quote engine maybe don't perform as well for them, that they can allocate to the insurance agents and not worry about driving up competition. So we still do a ton of search, and we think it's effective, as the previous slide showed, that agents think it's effective, but it is a real challenge given the cost amounts. Insurance is highly, highly competitive. The other piece we wanted to call out is business listings, or location data management, as we refer to it here. Essentially, how you rank in Google My Business, Facebook, Yelp, other channels where you get local listings. The image on the right, I think all of us are seeing more and more within channels as we do searches for various businesses. They know where we are because of the mobile penetration that Patrick talked us through, and they're surfacing up the ability to contact that agent right from the search page, wherever it may be. The challenge that we're seeing here, not only for insurance, but across all industries, is insurance agents are not sure that their business listings are accurate, consistent, and up to date. And we find this really interesting because many of our clients are paying for location data management services like a Reputation.com or Yext or Moz, Local, whatever, on their behalf. But the idea is, and trying to take care of this for them. But what's really interesting and feedback we hear is this is it's a very simple practice, but a difficult concept to understand. And so we find, not only for insurance, but across the board, only 5% for insurance and 6% for other industries are sure that their business listings are accurate. What are my business listings? How do I update them? It's a very simple task, and there are tools that we've mentioned automate it, and many of you on this webinar today are providing this service for them. But education, I think, is important in this area, so that they know, whether a guy comes in off the street and tries to sell them location data management services, or they're just generally unsure, that they're confident that this is being taken care of for them on their behalf, or that they should feel good about their ability to be optimized in this space. All right, so we wanted to call out here the last, wanted to focus a little bit on social because we see it as such a high priority. We wanted to talk about its use and its support. I think you can see the fact that it's a high focus area in those slides a few slides ago that Patrick and I discussed, but here the actual use is still lower than other industries. So people have it as a priority, but are still a little bit timid or haven't necessarily dove in as deep as they're suggesting that they would have in 2019 from the priority standpoint. So you're seeing about 23% engages with the community and advertises versus 27% of other industries. And so there's some folks, 34%, are just claiming a presence and post regularly with no advertising versus 25% of other industries. So there's some activity, but not necessarily as much fully engaged as other industries. I think on the social media support side, they're feeling like it's more supported than other channels. And this is another area where I think insurance and our clients has done a really good job making tools available to their insurance agents. And I think while it's probably not as high as you'd like to see it to be if you're managing that social media relationship and social media tooling relationship internally, but it is more than other industries. So, you know, if you go 25% of people feel like they provide content, education on best practices and supports implementation, all the way to even, you know, it's up to me to implement. Both those things all score higher than other industries. So you can see other industries, 20% of folks are responding that they do not provide any support at all, and only 7% in the insurance industry, so roughly a third. I think that's really good. There's certainly a lot of opportunity here. Again, that's what Patrick deals with every day and we deal with, but I think that's a really good step in the right direction for the insurance industry. Patrick, would you agree with that?
100%. I love seeing this stat, and you know, obviously it's relative to other industries, and I'm sure everybody on the line would like to see some of these figures improved, as so would I. And I think, you know, obviously one of the most probably a frequently asked question that this group gets, and I certainly get, is kind of what are those best practices when it comes to the, you know, mix of advertising and posting, and what are the things to post. And it's likely a difficult conversation, but I think that the reality is that best practices is not a formula of a certain type of content or a certain frequency of posting. I think for anybody that's scrolling through feeds on Facebook or Instagram, you're probably seeing a really diverse mix of content and frequency and strategies from all the different businesses you follow. And I think that's a testament to businesses sort of testing and learning their way through these maybe newer channels, but also, you know, that they're you know, really just finding their own authentic voice on our platform. So just wanted to touch on that a bit, but great to see these numbers. And again, I think with continued investment and focus on the agent community, we're aiming to improve these over time.
Good. So the only other thing we would say on this one here is we're seeing a lot of tons of Facebook, more so than other industries across the board. And I think the other piece I would say is the next up would be LinkedIn. So where really the dichotomy is, and it's because of the professional nature and the community aspect that Facebook's really pushing with groups and other events that makes Facebook a really good channel for the insurance agents. I think that's obvious and something we've talked about throughout the webinar today. The other pieces are, you know, the heavy use of LinkedIn, again, given that small business relationship aspect that happens in the community, and how you create connections within a professional environment for insurance is really important. And then on the Instagram and Twitter side, I think it's just, you know, less showy than other industries, right? I think that's what we hear a lot of times, is we struggle with content because people don't want to think or talk about insurance in some of these places. That may or may not always be the case, but I think that's where you're seeing it kind of flip, where insurance is leading in Facebook and LinkedIn, and then behind other industries in Twitter and Instagram. I'm not necessarily sure that that's a bad thing. That may just be understanding your consumer target and focusing your resources in the right space.
Mm-hmm. And from Facebook's standpoint, while Facebook and Instagram are both you know, certainly distinct, different front end environments, and I think that's, you know, partially what you're seeing in the data here. What our goal over the long term and you know, mostly exists today is, while it's distinctly different front ends, is creating a unified back end for businesses. So rather than feeling like you need to manage your business, you know, in Facebook separately from managing it in Instagram, we're focused on creating tools that are going to allow agents to be able to communicate and connect with customers, you know, seamlessly across those platforms. So something to keep in mind is, you know, we know that Instagram is a highly engaged community and presents an opportunity for agents to, you know, connect with a younger audience.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so let's summarize and spend a few minutes on wrapping this thing up and get to some questions from folks. I mean, I think some of the key findings that when Patrick and I were talking about what we learned here is, I think, the agents value this channel as a key way for success. Digital is a big focus of what they're trying to do as a key priority for 2019. We're seeing that buyer journey increase in the digital channel and requires folks to think maybe differently than they are today. And we think our insurance agents are really much more mature than other industries, but there's still an incredible amount of opportunity with still a high percentage in those bottom two areas of maturity. So we give you these 4 things to think about as recommendations or things that we see that mature insurance marketers have in common. And the first one is agent support. So our most successful have roughly what is the equivalent of one-to-one agent support, whether that be the regional leader, a call center they can call onto, a platform or partner to help them work through their issues, but essentially providing confidence in them and augmenting their day-to-day business operations from a marketing standpoint really does help increase their maturity and confidence in making some of the right suggestions. The next is approved agencies, vendors, and content for media execution. This is in the state of local marketing insurance report. If you downloaded it, we didn't have time to get to all the data today, but one of the things we see is a feedback that the integration of multiple tactics is very low. And that means they have to go to different places to pull together different parts of their marketing program versus having an integrated program where it's easy and simple for them. So the more you can consolidate, think about how it's easy, whether it be different vendors or not. That doesn't necessarily have to be a vendor consolidation discussion, but how you can make it much more integrated and simple for someone to opt into multiple packages or help them get their marketing up and running quickly and easily is a piece of feedback that we find in more mature agent marketers than those who scored lower on the maturity scale. The other one is online agent education programs. Patrick at Facebook they're doing their own research. They've got a lot of resources available to help agents in that channel, both at the corporate level as well as the local level. A lot of SMB tools that he can talk about in a second, but how we help agents become more educated again and feel confident, whether it be not everybody can have that one-to-one agent support. So what are the tools that we make available so they can learn more and become more educated? They do have a hunger and an interest for knowledge. And last but not least is simplicity, right? So a simple co-op or subsidy program is one of the key things when we talk to our clients today or we hear in the marketplace as people think about their 2020 programs. There's a lot of simplification talk that's occurring, and from the feedback that we got from agents, the simpler that it can be to help them be successful and make decisions about where they're marketing and what they're doing, that co-op and subsidy program really is a great way to incentivize the right behaviors. We saw agents that had a simple co-op program grew their business at 6% last year in our state and local marketing survey, and those that did not have a program grew at about 4% last year. So it does make tangible business impact from a growth standpoint to have one of these programs or have a simple program for them. So we leave you with, before we switch over to questions and answers, there are kind of 3 resources that you can go through to learn more today or dig in more for your specific business. One, we have available now a local marketing maturity assessment. You can go through with your own business, answer some questions, and we will provide a maturity score for you and your business. Second is the state and local marketing insurance report. If you haven't already downloaded it, it's available on the website for you to get today, and we will follow up with a lot of this material for those that attended the webinar today to everybody. And the last is, what Patrick talked through. I think, Patrick, why don't you talk through this last one, buddy?
Yeah, so I've focused our session today on the auto insurance, but if you go to the link that you see here, which will point you to our Facebook IQ website, this is just going to give you more information about auto insurance and property insurance buyers in the United States. What are the different trends between different age demographics, and if interested, other countries as well. So a little bit more in depth on our findings from Accenture and ComScore with that resource there, focused again on the path to purchase.
Okay. Cool. So we have a few minutes for questions. You're welcome to submit those through the webinar platform. We got one here, Patrick, that I'll start with as others come in. And I think we want to start with like the number when you're out talking to folks and doing insurance for agents in the local channel. What do you find to be the top pain points that you're trying to help your clients or customers through today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. I think what comes up certainly for businesses of all sizes, but specifically with insurance agents, is just thinking through how to effectively communicate on Facebook and Instagram, which, let's face it, the vast majority of activity is happening on a mobile device. And so there's just different factors to think about of how people are using mobile devices that I think are really critical and are forcing people to rethink their creative strategies. So, for instance, something as simple as vertical orientation of your visuals, so that it takes up more pixels on a smartphone versus kind of more traditional internet banner ads, or how to add subtle motion or graphics or even video to help businesses stand out in feed that is packed with other relevant content from businesses, but also family and friends. So thinking through what are those sort of visual cues that businesses should have in mind as they think about their creative strategy is frequent conversation that we're having with our partners, and we recognize that it's new muscles to build for insurance agents.
Nice. New muscles to build, BrandMuscle.
Yeah.
Nice tie-in, Patrick. Well done. I think for us at BrandMuscle, the pain points that we're really talking with insurance, both brands and agents about today is how do we value success of a program? How do we set the expectations appropriately where as agents are doing marketing programs that what they're putting in versus what they're going to get out and their expectations, how their expectations are set. So we get a lot of folks who invest in a program and feel like that program is a failure within a month. And they're not necessarily sure why they're saying that program is a failure. We have data points that would prove that it's not, and how we debate that and make sure that agents feel that the money that they're investing, because they are investing more than other verticals, the money that they're investing is well spent and helping their business move forward. So we spend a lot of time talking about how we right-size programs, make them simple, make them appealing, and how we set expectations for agents to ensure that they are set up for success. Okay, last question, I think, Patrick. I think if someone had to ask you, and it had to be make sense. How do you answer the question of the right balance between the organic and paid posting frequency in today's landscape?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a question that we're getting frequently, and as I touched on, there's definitely not a sort of formula that's going to apply and work for every business, just as not every business's audience is going to be the same. So we definitely share with advertisers and all businesses to take a test and learn approach, utilize the analytics and tools that are available with your Facebook and Instagram pages to understand what's resonating with your audience. And then I think on the difference between paid and organic, I think what we've shared with our partners is, there's certainly a huge opportunity and value in creating that community online and having an organic presence and being, easy to find for customers and prospects to learn more information about your business, right? It's essentially like a mobile storefront. But again, with the amount of time that people are spending scrolling in their feeds, increasingly so spent in our stories format, your organic content is competing with not only other businesses' organic content, but also family and friends. And so there's a finite amount of time that people are spending on these places, and there's an exponential amount of content that is competing to show up in people's feeds and stories. And so I think that it sort of underscores the value of advertising, is because if you really want to be able to get in front of the right customers, kind of set your parameters of who you want to reach, and even just set a couple dollars a day, or even try ads for a week or month, whatever makes sense for a business that's just getting started with advertising, or if you want to ramp up, if you're a more sophisticated marketer. There is tremendous value in the amount of people that you can reach with Facebook ads. Again, knowing that it's paid is a sort of separate ranking than organic.
Yeah, and when we that question has to, will probably live on in infamy for you guys, certainly, and we get it all the time too. And it's beyond social, right? What's the right mix of marketing for us? And I think we work on media points of views to help agents and other verticals understand where the right allocations of dollars are based on where people are consuming media, where they live, what targeting tactics are available. And so, we'll make best practice recommendations and try and make it simple and easy to make those right choices because there are limited funds, limited time. And so it's not necessarily the same for everybody, but there are best practices that we're trying to educate folks on, and again, make simple and easy, which I think is a theme from Patrick's research as well as ours today. So I'm gonna wrap it up today. I appreciate everyone taking the time out of their very busy days to join us. Hopefully it was informative. I want to thank Patrick and Facebook for joining us, help making this webinar possible and a lot more valuable. And we will be following up shortly with some additional content from today. And thank you very much. Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everyone.
All right, bud. Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care.
Bye-bye. Take care.